caught wife. Ting pics, videos with SRO officer at school she works at. It's been almost a week since I looked through my wife's phone and discovered she was having an affair with the SRO officer at the school where she works. We have a 3-year-old kid, and the other man is also married with a child. She stated that it had been on and off for about 6 months. Last year, she became pregnant and miscarried at 12 weeks. My initial reaction was to wonder whether it belonged to me. She said that it was never physical and that it was always just words, photographs, and videos. I saw things I had never idea she was capable of. She informed me that she had been primarily unhappy during our marriage and that I had never been emotionally accessible to her. I'll confess that I was sometimes verbally aggressive. After telling her we needed time apart and dividing time with our kid, I spoke with an attorney and didn't like what he said. I earn 9 times more than she does since she has never worked full-time since we met, and we have spent a lot of time and money on modifications to our home, on top of the rental property I owned before to our marriage. I wasn't ready to begin that process, so I let her return. I've already begun counseling, but she hasn't, despite her assurances. A part of me regrets allowing her to return since she got away with little to no penalties. I believe I want to work things out with her, but I know she lies to me and is incredibly manipulative. I'm simply lost and sad, and I'm hoping that counseling would help me discover answers. A brief history: she became pregnant as soon as I completed my undergrad. She quit out and hasn't returned to finish. And after our baby was born, I jumped directly into my master's degree. I've never not worked full-time, and I've been in the reserves for over 7 years, which she acknowledged to being largely connected with him on the weekends I was gone. I knew I was busy, but I simply assumed that was what I had to do. We weren't married when she became pregnant. In fact, we weren't even dating. I fell in love with her right away, even before she became pregnant. She has previously told me that this was forced and that she resents me for our relationship, and I previously told her that I'm not sure whether we'd be married if it weren't for our kid. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for us? Update: FYI, this is a really emotional post. It went from advised to progressed to need support many times. Please accept my apologies for my rambling. It's now been around 3.5 weeks after D-Day. I paid the retainer this week and will go in to sign some paperwork today. I'm going to take a hit since she doesn't earn much money, but I'll make it, as long as I can somehow negotiate me keeping the house. I ended up notifying AP wife, and we spoke for a few weeks trying to figure out what we could. They both told the same narrative of not being physical and relying only on photographs and videos. He did tell his wife that he could have done anything he wanted with her since she was so insistent, but he couldn't, so who knows? It doesn't matter to me, but if they're attempting to figure it out, more power to him. They still work together, but my STBX insists they don't talk, which makes no difference to me. Our current living condition is growing vexing. At first, I assumed we'd attempt to work things out. We're both in IC, but I informed her this weekend that I wanted a divorce and that I wanted her to go live with her mother, where she would surely end up since she can't afford anything on her own. She said that she would not leave since doing so would entail accepting responsibility for all that has happened, which she refuses to do. I want to retain the home since I don't have someplace else to go to as quickly as she does, and our house is a gold mine with an unfinished expansion I stopped working on last month. She said I ignored her and was only concerned with job, graduate, school, house projects, and so on. It's tough for me not to lose it when she continues to minimize her conduct. She claims that our marriage has been a disaster for as long as she can remember, and that she would rather be poor and feel love than affluent and feel unappreciated. I've started leaving work earlier, bringing up our kid earlier, and giving her extra showers at night. It's not that I didn't want to previously. I simply worked late a lot and assumed she preferred doing that things. I informed her that my faults remained inside our family while hers left, but she still refuses to comprehend that our mistakes were different. I feel like I can accept I was a bad spouse, but I don't want to think I was a bad parent. We were planned to sell our home this month and live at her mother's house while we constructed on land we were scheduled to acquire this month as well. In August, I was departing for officer training with the Air National Guard. My board's test was scheduled on 22nd of this month. I also took on a PT consulting job to supplement my summer vacation funds. I know I pushed myself too far, but I've always done that. I'm just 26 years old, and I know I've done a lot, yet it seems like it was all for nothing. All of her plans have been broken, and she claims they were never hers. I attempted to get her viewpoint on a variety of issues, but she constantly said, "I don't know." As a result, I was constantly in charge of making choices about work changes, relocation, money, and so on. I'm simply feeling lost in life right now, and I wish I knew what the future held for me. I'm still debating whether it's worth it to stick it out since her family is the only family I have, and it'll be tough to let that go on top of all the other changes. But I know deep down that it won't work out. I'm a planner, and I try to have both short-term and long-term plans. Obviously, things change, but this circumstance has totally derailed my line of thinking, and I honestly don't know what to do with anything anymore. Story 2. I cheated because he cheated. It didn't make it okay, but it felt okay. I was in a 6-year relationship 2 years ago. I'd been dating Michael since I was in my early 20s. We agreed on everything but one. He was an excellent liar, but I was not. Over the years, I'd say I caught him having talks and exchanges with at least 4 or 5 women. He always claimed it was simply texting and a lack of my attention to him that pushed him to do it, and I was comfortable with it and blamed myself every time. Except for Marisla, a large-built lady who stuck out from the throng. And compared to me, you're a gorgeous girl with a wonderful. Give her credit. She was completely unaware of my presence. I discovered one day that since he usually worked 12-hour hours and was gone all day, as soon as he got home, I would leave for work. Yeah, I worked at McDonald's. Anyway, it all came to light because, when messaging her, pretending to be the victim of his previous relationship, yep, he referred to me as the ex. He didn't realize that the messages were ringing on all his iCloud devices, one of which was our PC at home. It wasn't the first time, so I wasn't shocked. I only recall letting it go on for weeks and him returning home as if nothing had happened. They exchanged photographs, texts, and so on. At that point, I began to feel vulnerable, like if I wasn't good enough for him anymore. I tried all I could to swallow it and ignore it, but it was too much this time. I spoke with Daisy, my coworker, and she explained everything to me in a straightforward manner. It never occurred to me, nor was it given any thought, until, of course, I chose to go out with Daisy and a few other coworkers one day instead of remaining at home. Daisy then referred me to DeAndre. I just knew him because he worked, but we never exchanged more than a grin or hello. I did entrust him with the matter and spoke with him on a regular basis. We got to the point where I felt like he was suddenly being too flirty, which I understood. One day after work, I gradually started to give in. As I reached in to offer him a hug, he leaned in for a kiss, which I naturally permitted. I went home and felt terrible until I spotted communications between Michael and Maria arranging to meet later that week at a hotel. I decided to skip work the following day. I did, however, intend to meet DeAndre for a drink that evening. I put on my nicest outfit and set out with a purpose. We left the bar without waiting. I drew my dress straps tighter and locked my gaze on him. Of course, he retaliated by actually flinging himself at me. We F as I hadn't F in years that night. I kept H up for almost 3 months. Michael and Marisla had a falling out at the time, but I continued going, not arriving home on time after work. Days out at random, until he called me out on it, pretending to be the victim, saying I was never home and behaving suspiciously. He falsely accused me of being a whore. I didn't say anything. All I had to do was stroll over to the computer, log in, and bring up his convos before heading to bed. He attempted to make things right, but I left soon after. I eventually stopped having with DeAndre. It was the same without the thought of vengeance. It was completed. The thrill had worn off.